Welcome to Interludes with Chris Mackenzie. Happiness is having Lewis Fiander back in the studio with us here. It's absolutely wonderful actor, and as I said before, stage, screen, television, and as we like to say, a man of many parts.
And radio, you left out radio.
Oh God, radio too,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh dear, I
Good
did
old
leave
Sydney
out.
radio. Yeah.
I've been reading your CV, and I'm particularly interested and want to hear more about the show you did in London about Noel Coward, Noel and Gertie.
That was the last show I did in London. It was a two-hander, meaning, someone who was to play Noel Coward and someone to play Gertie Lawrence. And it was a compilation of works that they did during their long relationship.
Yep.
It started out on the road 8 years earlier.
Yep.
And it had people like Joanna Lumley in it and so forth, and then it would get smaller to 6 people, 5 people, and then it finished up with 3. It had a narrator and the 2 characters, which when the narrator was telling the story, it meant that you expected the people playing Noel and Gertie to sound like him,
of course,
terribly sort of Noel Coward and things like that. And it was done out of London, and Sheridan Morley, Robert Morley's eldest son, wrote it, compiled it. And someone said to Sheridan, look, you've been at this for so long. The only thing to do is your last chance is to cut the narrator. So Sheridan said, oh, yes, great. And then he thought about it and thought, well, perhaps that's a very good idea. You get 2 people to represent Noel and Gertie rather than have them imitate.
Yep.
And it was offered to me, and I said, no, I won't do it. I will not imitate Noel Coward. It'd just be ludicrous. And they said, no, we don't want you to. And so we got to work, and we had to dance and sing and do snippets from the plays, Private Lives, and so forth. One we did was a piece from Brief Encounter, the Trevor Howard, Celia Johnson play. I was dead against it, and I've never been so wrong in all my life. We had people weeping. Yeah,
of course.
And we put it together, and we played it at the Donmar Warehouse shortly after Barbara Cook had been in there. And it was really lovely. There was Patricia Hodge from Rumpole of the Bailey, people will know,
lovely.
Pat, and myself, and the pianist was Bill Blezard, who used to play for Marlene Dietrich and Joyce Grenfell. Yep. Most accomplished pianist. And it was great fun. We had a lot of people turning up. One night, Pat said to me, there's someone waving a handkerchief. Is it you? I said, I hope not. It's a fella, And she said, well, who the hell is it? In the interval, we asked the stage manager to go up because we thought this person was pretty distracting. It was Douglas Fairbanks Jr., who was bawling his eyes out because he'd had quite a long affair with Gertie Lawrence at one point. And he came to see us afterwards, and he was just weeping. Oh. But there were people turning up, Jeanette Spanier, the great designer and costumier. Couturier, isn't it? That's better. Yes. And Irene Handel came in, and
how wonderful!
Yeah, she was wonderful. She said, "I saw Gertie, quite a lot. I didn't like her very much. She was very popular with stockbrokers. I think it had something to do with bound breasts." And Pat and I looked at it. We didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Obviously that was what was wrong with Gertie Lawrence.
Absolutely, yes. Now listen, I want to play something with you, singing one of the tunes of this.
Oh God, must we?
Yes, you just have to not listen.
Yes, all right.
Sorry about that. We're going to play. What is it? Mrs. Worthington.
Mrs. Worthington with the extra verse.
Oh, goody,
which has never been recorded except by me.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a Golden Days radio first. Then let's go.
Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. The profession is overcrowded and the struggle's pretty tough. And admitting the fact she's burning to act, that isn't quite enough. She has nice hands to give the wretched girl her due, but don't you think her bust is too developed for her age? I repeat, Mrs. Worthington, sweet Mrs. Worthington, don't put your daughter on the stage. Regarding yours, dear Mrs. Worthington, of Wednesday the 23rd, although your baby may be keen on a stage career, how can I make it clear that this is not a good idea for her to hope? Dear Mrs. Worthington, is on the face a bit absurd. Her personality is not in reality inviting enough, exciting enough for this particular sphere. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. She's a bit of an ugly duckling, you must honestly confess, and the width of a seat would surely defeat her chances of success. It's a loud voice, and though it's not exactly flat, she'll need a little more than that to earn a living wage. On my knees, Mrs. Worthington, please, Mrs. Worthington, don't put your daughter on the stage. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. Though they said at the School of Acting she was lovely as Peer Gynt, I'm afraid, on the whole, an ingenue role would emphasize her squint. She's a big girl, and though her teeth are fairly good, she's not the type I ever would be eager to engage. No more buts, Mrs. Worthington. Nuts, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. One look at her bandy legs shall prove she hasn't got a chance. In addition to which, the son of a bitch can neither sing or dance. She's a vile girl, and uglier than mortal sin. One look at her has put me in a tearing, bloody rage. That sufficed, Mrs. Worthington. Christ, Mrs. Worthington, don't put your daughter on the stage.
Lovely. I feel so proud and sort of like, oh no, a little bit of fame rubbing off on me. Have you sitting here? I know you hate listening to it, but he was, I'll tell you listeners, he was very, very good. He didn't scream or shriek or carry on. He just looked pained.
It's very funny. I mean, when we did this, you're always in trouble doing Noel Coward because there are those who want to see it exactly as it was done with that very strange voice of his.
Yes.
Although it wasn't strange, it's just that when he was a kid he had a lisp, and he managed to invent this sort of voice to get over it.
Oh, really?
He did say, when I go to see plays, I can't do him, but when I go and see plays, people are always imitating me and speaking with a very funny voice. I don't know why I don't speak with a funny voice.
He's the only person in the world who didn't know them.
Yeah. But
must have been a fun show to do.
Well, it was great. But you see, the thing is that if you're going to succeed in something like that, you tell the story of someone.
Yep.
But you must do it on your own terms. Otherwise, you become second best.
Yep.
And this is why I think a lot of kids today, some students, sometimes I come across kids who, want my opinion, but I don't want them to sing like Barbara Streisand or somebody else. You must be first best on your own terms.
Oh, yes.
You could be influenced by people, but don't copy them. You haven't got a chance.
No, absolutely. So, isn't that lovely? I'm really charmed. Thank you very much for letting us do that, because I now have another request.
Yeah.
1776.
Yeah.
Firstly, I didn't see it. I don't know much about it. I don't know what it's about, but we want to play some music, but I also want to know when you did it, where, and what's a little bit about the story.
Well, I went to London in 1963, I think we worked on a previous programme. I can never remember when I went. And I had been with Tennants, I had been with the National Theatre, and then you take a fall back, And I went to the Oxford Playhouse and started to build, and also get the opportunity to show that the basis of my Australian training was versatility. You would play juveniles, or I would take on old men. I had the privilege of playing opposite the legendary Viennese actress, Elisabeth Bergner, who had once told Adolf Hitler off and had to leave the next day. And so one was building, and until I did Pride and Prejudice. But my first break in the West End was not playing the lead in a Shakespeare or a classical play. It was an American musical called 1776. And I was going off to Greece for a holiday, and the phone rang and said, could you go to an audition at the New Theatre? And I went along, and I'd heard a little bit about this piece, because Gordon Jackson, you remember Hudson from Upstairs, Downstairs, had seen it in America and hated it. So I didn't go along with much enthusiasm. And I read for it and sang a number and came out of the theatre thinking, funny, I think I went rather well in that. Oh, forget it. Went home. The phone was ringing as I walked through the door. Can you go to New York tonight? Are you serious? I'm going on holiday to Greece. And there I was turning down a Broadway producer, saying I'd never get it, because I'm far too young. The character was 41 and I was early 30s, I suppose. So this is from 1963 to 70, so it had taken me that long. And so they flew me to New York, and there I was, put up at the Algonquin, saw the show, this wonderful show. The curtain went up. I thought, what happens if I don't like it? You know, they've flown me to New York and all that. So I saw the show, which was impossible to believe. It was so lovely. It was a play with music, not a musical comedy like Brigadoon or, Rodgers and Hart. And it had the most intelligent book by a brilliant man, Academy Award winner Peter Stone. And I was fascinated. And it was about the signing of the Declaration of American Independence. Can you imagine anything more boring in your life?
No.
And it was brilliant. And anyway, I did an audition on the Saturday. They put the script under my arm and said, it's yours. And then sent me off to Greece to continue my holiday.
Oh,
I can't even get anyone to send me to Footscray if I'm planning for a holiday in Melbourne now that I'm back here. You know, this is why it's a different world over there. They're rather like actors.
I don't know that holidaying in Footscray is actually one.
Look, you never know. It's the coming thing, I tell you. There's some glorious place. Mooney Ponds used to be famous, but it's Footscray's coming.
I don't know. I think Mooney Ponds has an edge
no,
on Footscray.
Footscray is very good. You can go there and lie on beautiful furniture in Footscray.
You can too.
Yes, and pretend the sun is shining through the windows. You know.
Can.
Yes.
Don't tell me.
Anyway, I came back from Greece. We rehearsed it, and somehow we just couldn't fail with it. Except there was this worry with the British. What the hell is the name 1776?
Yeah.
And if I'm allowed to say this, it's just a fact, and it can happen to. If there are any young people listening in and want to get on, I had a standing ovation on the first night, which in those days, you never got them at all. The British were very reserved about it, and there were only two people sitting down, my agent and the producer, Stuart Ostro, with absolute joy. But I got a standing ovation, and I really won't forget it. And then we went to a thing at the Savoy afterwards, a wonderful party at the Savoy, and it happened again.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, but we were a terrific unit. And
positively weep-making.
So,
did you burst into tears when they stood up?
No, I was very pleased. I thought of my mum and dad in Australia quite a lot, and it was a lot of work, and they'd supported me a great deal, you know, and it'd been a long journey. And
wonderful.
And I was in the new theatre, and I was in the dressing room that Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh had Kate Hepburn, Charles Lawton, Gertie Lawrence, Ivan Novello. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
How marvellous.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we're going to play some music, but with you singing again. I'm sorry about this.
Oh, yes.
This is from 1776.
Oh, it's the last one. Is Anybody There? It's about John Adams forcing the Congress to break away from England because they were overtaxed, stamp duties, tea taxes, and paying all this to King George. And they just said, this is bloody ridiculous. We have to start a new nation. And this is the forging of the new nation. And one might ask what the hell has happened to it since then. But it was formed with the greatest goodwill.
Yes.
And at the end of it, he just thinks he's never going to get it through. He can't get the slave clause through. They said, you must take it out. Ben Franklin said to him, wait, John. And someone said to him, if you take out this clause, there will be trouble in America 100 years from now. They were only out by a couple of years before the Civil War.
Yeah.
But this is when John really has no chance and he's alone. And he just says, is anybody there?
Wonderful. Let's go.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? They want me to quit. They say, John, give up the fight. Still to England I say, good night, forever good night. For I have crossed the Rubicon. Let the bridge be burned behind me, come. What may, come what may. Commitments, the croakers all say will rule the day. There'll be hell to pay in fiery purgatory through all the gloom, through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? I see fireworks, I see the pageant and pomp and parade, I hear the bells ringing out, I hear the cannons roar, I see Americans, all Americans free forevermore! How quiet the chamber is. How silent the chamber is. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see?
Wow.
Oh, dramatic.
Whoa, yeah, big drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big moment.
Yeah.
Probably one of the biggest moments in American history.
Well, actually, history is not accurate. It wasn't signed on the 4th of July. When they started to win, people were coming and saying, "Where's that bit of paper?" And they put their signature to it. But it was...
right. Yeah, okay. Now, that wasn't recorded. I thought that would have been recorded in the theatre, but it wasn't at all.
No, it was in Abbey Road.
In London?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the famous Abbey Road,
Yep.
Beatles and all that. But it was great recording it because the original production in New York had a 28-piece orchestra and an arrangement to follow it.
Yep.
But when we got to London, the producer said, "Oh my God, I've made a mistake. The pit here is much smaller." So he got Eddie Sauter, who's this famous jazz arranger, used to work with Benny Goodman and you name it. Some of those great classical standards of jazz are done by Eddie. And he said to Eddie, "I want the same sound, but I want it done with 14 pieces, and I wanted to make it sound like a European classical chamber orchestra in a way." That's not the right description, but you understand. And so Eddie got to work, and that was it. And when we were recording in Abbey Road, some of the kids with their rock bands were coming in and sort of say, "Oh, this, what are you doing in here? How many musicians? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14. My God, who did the arrangements?" Eddie Sauter. Eddie Sauter? Is he here? Can we meet him? And,
how wonderful.
Yeah, and he was a beautiful man, but everybody connected with that show was absolutely wonderful. It was directed by Peter H. Hunt, as it was on Broadway, and when I came back the following year to do it in Australia, it was directed by his brother, Gordon Hunt, who is the father of Helen Hunt, who won the Academy Award a couple of years ago. Yeah.
That's right. So you did it here. How long did you run here?
We were at the end of J.C. Williamson's 102 years of operation, so we played 10 weeks in Melbourne and 10 weeks in Sydney. But
and was it popular?
The notices here were just divine.
Really?
I mean, it really was. But we didn't... People say that it was not a success in the sense of we played to terrific houses and so forth, but we were carrying the whole losses of all the J.C. Williamson's theatres and productions throughout Australia at that time.
Oh, right.
It was winding down, and it was tragic.
Oh, dear.
It was the last musical at the Theatre Royal in Sydney before they
pulled it
down,
Well, what a joy to be able to come back and do it here.
That was great.
Now, we want to end up with some music from your favourite holiday spot, and it's not Footscray.
No, it's not. No,
it's not even Mooney
It's
Ponds.
Greece. I don't know why,
Greece.
but I mean, I've always, when I want to get away from things, I'm a great traveller, and I couldn't even travel around Melbourne. Nooks and crannies that I know about. I'm sure a lot of other people don't. In this city alone, it's always interesting things. Little dark laneways with some curious little shop there.
Yep.
And I've done that throughout Europe. Certain parts of Europe I didn't go to because when it was an opportunity to go there, like Scandinavia, it was too damn cold up there, you know, bad enough in London. So I'd always head for the Mediterranean or North Africa. But the place that I loved, I went there once, the time of 1776, yes. I went to Corfu, and I absolutely fell for it. And I've been there about 10 times, and I've travelled across the Peloponnesus and through the Aegean Islands and the Ionian Islands and things like that, and I adore it. It drives me mad. I mean, the Greeks are really unbelievable, but about 5 days later, I mean, it seemed to be so disorganised. Mm. And then suddenly you just fall under this spell, which is so unique in Greece.
And it doesn't matter anymore.
You talk to a farmer in the middle of nowhere, and he'll talk like some old philosopher, and he'll still mention the gods and things like that. And you find that your body belongs in that sort of atmosphere. And so I found this recording last week. And it's a Hadjidakis recording, 30 of his night songs. And it's just lovely. I can just imagine myself sitting on a lovely promontory in a little bar with straw on the roof there and watching the sunset with a glass of ouzo or retsina in the hand.
Okay. So, having described the situation, sitting at the sunset and with the drink and the calm and the beauty and the fact that your body is finally, and your mind is finally wound down to Greek time and Greek rhythm, how marvellous that would be.
Yes, you only need one other thing, is to say, Saga Popoli, Dosi Muani Fili.
Oh, well, there you go.
I love you very much.
Oh.
Give me a little kiss. Thank you.
There you go. Lewis, we're running out of time again.
Oh, we were getting rather hot there.
I know, weren't we? But listen, it's been absolutely marvellous, and I do thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I think the listeners of Golden Days Radio are going to be much charmed and enchanted with your humour and all the information. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. You have been listening to Interludes with Chris Mackenzie.